Welcome back to another episode of Legends Live, as presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association, the home of all our NBA and WNBA legends. I'd like to remind all our viewers that you can submit your questions during the show, and we will get to those right before we wrap up. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring in today's guest. We have got former Oklahoma State Cowboy, former Seattle Supersonic, dunk contest champion. We've got Desmond Mason with us.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, Desmond. How are you, man? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing good, man. Staying busy.
I was going to say, like, that art behind, is that what's keeping you busy now during quarantine and all this?
Yeah, that's been keeping me busy since, let me see, I was born in 77. That's what, 88?
Okay.
Keep me busy since 88, but no, I've been doing painting, doing shows since I was 11. So this is this was kind of my behind the scenes scenario when I was playing 82 games a year for 10 years. Yeah.
So what's your art process look like? Like what you're creating in the back? Like, is that something for you? Is that a commission piece? Is that you messing around? Like what you got going on now?
This is a commission. This is a client of mine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay. I live in Oklahoma City. So this is a client of mine in Tulsa, but we keep a house and a studio out in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And I've been blessed and fortunate to participate in Miami Basel. Shows in and out of the country. Have had shows in all over Asia, Japan, China, Vietnam, Singapore, also Italy, a lot of other countries outside of the United States, the Bahamas and Mexico as well. So it was my life during basketball, but it's 100% my life after basketball.
You mentioned a lot of countries. What country, I won't say surprised you, but what was a country you got to and you really enjoyed, like, their art or some of their art, like either like throughout the city, graffiti, whatever they had in the, like, whatever?
You know, I knew about it because I did 4 years of art history. I did color theory. And basically I was, prior to basketball, I wasn't on anybody's radar until my senior year in college. But prior to basketball, I was actually studying to be an art teacher. Okay. And so I was taking art history and learning about culture of art, the lineage of art and areas of without our world from an art standpoint. And I would say Spain.
Okay.
I'm a huge, Pablo Picasso is my favorite artist of all time. And going to Malaga, Spain, where he was born, and seeing the house that he lived in, and seeing Guernica and some of the other pieces it was pretty interesting to me, for sure.
So when you come back from a trip like that, like, does that go into your pieces? Like your next piece, you feel like you come back, you paint something, and you look back, and it's like, oh yeah, I just got back from Spain on that. Like I can see it.
Yeah, you can tell when I've either watched film or I've read or I've traveled. You can tell kind of my art starts to slowly shift. And it's a huge debate in the art world because you want to find your own way and kind of come up with your own thing. But my grandmother used to always say there's nothing new under the sun. And it's no different for me in basketball. I grew up watching Michael Jordan. I'm a Texas kid, so I remember, guys like Brad Davis and Ro Blackman and Mark Aguirre, those guys. And so you kind of start to pattern your game after. Like, so just because you got your tongue out and you're wearing big shorts and you're wearing your armband up halfway up your arm doesn't mean you're a copycat. But in the world of art, you're copying. And so for me, it was always considered using people that I valued their styles. So Picasso was definitely one. Jackson Pollock, another one. Jean-Michel Basquiat. Like these guys were I kind of mimicked, things for a while until I found my own way.
So do you, like, as an artist, do you have like other people's art around your house, or is it like, nah, only me is on my wall? Ain't nobody going on my wall but me?
Nah, my wife knows this, and I've always been this way. I'll normally like make something for my kids. Because I want them to know that their dad did something for them, like it was from my heart. And then in our house, there's always maybe one, maybe two pieces throughout the house that's a piece that's mine. But outside of that, I mean, I've collected. I have, I say this with zero, arrogance, because I just love this. It's like collecting players' jerseys. I've done that in my career because that's respect. To ask a guy to sign a jersey is a sign of respect.
Definitely.
When you're playing the way we played. But for me to go out of my pocket and buy an artist when I can paint something that's similar, it's a sign of respect. And so I own 5 Basquiat's. I've collected Rembrandt, Salvador Dali, multiple artists throughout the world in my travels. Chagall, Moreau, Peter Max. And so this is, some guys' vices are jewelry or cars or homes or whatever is your thing. But for me, it was always my first Picasso. I was in LA playing the Lakers and we got beat. I was in Seattle and I bought a Picasso reproduction that was an aftermarket touched and then signed by Picasso.
Oh, wow.
And I flew on a plane with it on my lap. So I was with Gary Payton. I was playing with Gary Payton and Patrick Ewing, Vin Baker, those guys. And I had this painting on my lap all the way back to Seattle. And so that's who I was when I played.
Did they, I just know I've talked to GP a couple of times. Did they give you a hard time? I just know how he is. So were they on your head about it, or was it was all love?
G's another breed, man. Trust me when I say this. I've had a radio show. I've done radio shows. I've talked. I can tell more stories about G and I, like the respect between us and how it all started and how it became a mutual respect. Even to this day, like I can text G, he texts me back immediately. And I took his sons to their first, like when I lived in Seattle, he was out with the homies and his wife was busy at the time. And I took little G and Julian to the movies to see Spider-Man. Like I drove from my house to take G kids to them just for, because they were good kids. And so, but they never really got after me about my art. Eventually, a lot of my teammates, but none of my teammates ever did because I drew my line in the sand. I didn't party. I didn't club. They tried to get me to, and they knew I stood my ground and I stood it hard. G knew for sure. Like he and I about got into a fight our first day in practice.
What happened there?
And so I drew that line in the sand, and they appreciate and respect it. Most of those guys end up buying and collecting work of mine.
What happened the first day of practice with G? What happened there?
Man, so it was the year after. It was the Olympic year, 2000. Okay. And if you remember, him and Vince Carter grew out their little afros. Those guys grew little afros out. And so I get, drafted as the 17th pick to Seattle. And so I'm coming into town. I'm a country kid from Oklahoma State, but I'm originally from country town in Texas. So going to Seattle was a big deal for me. Like it was weird. Right. I had worked out for more teams than anybody in my draft class. I wasn't on a draft board. My agent called Stern, told him we didn't get invited to the green room. And he goes, yeah, your guy's not going that high. I don't even know why you asking. And so eventually I get drafted and like Quentin Richardson's still in the green room. And like, so I got drafted and there was still guys in the green room. Speedy Claxton was still in the green room. And so, but I sat at home in Texas, didn't get a chance to put on my hat. I ate barbecue with my family, but it was perfect. It was a perfect.
I was gonna say that sounds like a win though. If you get the barbecue,
you always want to have that photo, but
for sure.
But I did it with my family, and that was good. And so I get to Seattle, and I'm staying in the hotel that's right next to the practice facility. And I remember Paul Westphal was a coach, and G comes to the first practice. And so I'm meeting everybody because I'd never met him, nor his. I knew him. I was a huge fan of Gary Payton and the Sonics, actually, randomly. And so I never met him. So he's in the hot tub like normally for all the years we played together, standing in the middle of the hot tub, eating the Egg McMuffin and drinking from McDonald's and drinking the orange juice, just wasting crumbs, all in the hot tub.
Okay.
Like typical GP. And I mean, every day, this was every morning. And so he wasn't practicing because of the Olympics. So he had his sweatsuit. So we come out and I show up last minute because my parents flew in. I didn't know Seattle. I had to drive all the way to SeaTac, get my parents, drive back, drop them at the hotel, then go to practice. I wasn't late to practice, but I was like the second to the last guy to practice, but I'm a rookie.
Yeah.
So he comes out and by the way, he's not practicing. He's just in sweats and flip-flops because he did all summer. And he goes, we're not having this. we got people that just feel like they could show up. They ain't done nothing in the league. And so I'm like, really? Like we just talked to each other and you didn't say that to me, but then you say it in front of everybody.
Right.
So it wasn't an hour or so into practice where he goes and puts on his shoes and his sweats and decides he's gonna come out and show us.
Teach y'all a lesson.
Done.
Yeah.
He wants to guard me. He gets physical. He calls me a couple of bad words.
Like he does, yeah.
Mentally, I'm out of practice now. So I walk up, I just slam the ball down and I'm like, yeah, practice over. And I started walking toward him. Vin Baker tries to stop me. Nate McMillan is yelling in the background. He's an assistant, him and Dwayne Casey. And they're like, nah, let him go. Let him roll. So I'm walking toward G backpedaling. And they finally break us up. And so I'm a little like, I don't let my emotions get the best of me. But I did that time because he was foul. And I go in and I'm sitting in the locker room with my head down. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I did this. And I see his shoes walk up. And so I'm sitting. So I pop up real fast. I'm like, you ain't finna snub me.
Right, yeah. I ain't catch me slipping.
And he looks at me and he goes, I'm bigger. And he goes, you gonna fight me today? And I go, absolutely. And he goes, I like that. We cool. And that was it.
Right. Yeah, and y'all was good after that.
Ever since that day, we've been, Paul, like whenever something went wrong on the court, they came to me to talk to G. Because G respected me. When we both got traded in that Ray Allen trade, I went to his house because he was just devastated. Even as big as he was Seattle. Yeah. And he was devastated with the Howard Schultz. And I was devastated because Howard met me the night before and told me that I was the future. Me and Rashard were the future of the team. And I was traded less than 24 hours. Wow. And so, but I went to G's house and even his wife at the time and the kids I still talk to, we became really cool after that.
So you said you were a fan of it. We got to get basketball back to Seattle at some point, right? Like they deserve to have a team, right?
Yeah, Seattle was for a long time bittersweet to me because the Ackley family drafted me. They owned the team before Howard Schultz in Starbucks, and Howard Schultz, like I said, that my time there has so many webs and stories of just greatness. And then for me personally, some things that really hurt my feelings and hit me to what the NBA is all about. And after that time, because I'm a very trusting person, until. Right. And after that time, I got pretty cold as it pertains to the NBA and how to deal with trades and things. And understanding it is a business, but Michael Jordan mentored me for 2 years, and he said, Desmond, the one thing I want to tell you is it's not somebody didn't want you, it's somebody wanted you more. And he said, that's the way you have to look at it. Like, perspective. He told me, he's like, I've never dealt with that. We, even to this day, Mike, like we see each other, we pick up, chat. Right. I ain't have a long time with him. I was in the DC days with Mike, Wizard days. But after my first game, he had the ball kid have me come to the training room, and he talked. He's like, I like how you play. I like your game. Wow. And he said, here's my number. We had 2-way pages back then. So
you beeped him, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so here's my number. You need anything? He's like, I'm gonna watch your games and I'll call you. If I get you, I'll talk to you. If I don't, I'll leave you a message. And he used to leave me messages all the time. He would watch my games and then say, you should do this, you should do that. But I say all that to say that it was just a different time back then. And he was a huge mentor of mine through that process. But Gary is, after that Ray Allen trade and with Gary now, we became close. The league it was just different back then. It was a much different situation.
What do you think is the biggest change that you see just from back then to the league and how it operates, what's going on in general?
It's a business.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Honestly, it was a business when I came in.
Right.
Even guys like Gary was saying, oh, it's a business. But, it's like your parents telling you something and it doesn't regulate until you have to be a parent. Right. And then it makes sense. And so, it's so much tougher when we played. And then I get here and I'm watching the game today, and I'm like, oh, there's so much more physical when we played.
Right.
And so I say the biggest difference is players have one. I don't want to be. I'm not that old guy because I'm a little bit of a hipster.
Okay.
Players have more freedom in the game, and I'm a realist. Like I'll say, you know what? Kevin Durant can play in any era.
Right.
Name it. He can play in any era. Doesn't matter. Russell Westbrook can play in any era. Yep. Like he's an anomaly. Those guys, James Harden, those guys are anomalies in the game. There's certain guys in the old school game that can't play in today's era. For instance, Shaq would dominate on the offensive end of the floor, but he would be a huge liability on the defensive end of the floor because you got guys like Anthony Davis.
Right.
That can just
make
stand
him
out
move
there
his
and tee up
feet.
threes.
Yeah.
And they're athletic. And so that's just a realist way of thinking. But the game today is different because it is absolutely a Fortune 500 company in the big scheme of things. Like it is one of the most dynamic, evolving companies on this planet. It may not be recognized that way because it's athletics, but when you want to talk about progression on a global scale, we want to talk about evolution on a year-to-year basis. I don't think there's not very many companies like Apple make that kind of evolution. Every year you have an iPhone.
And that's how they stay, on
relevant.
top. Yeah.
That's how they stay relevant. Every year in the NBA, you have what? A new crop of players, new rules, new jerseys, new shoes, some new partnership. Like there's not companies that do what the NBA is doing right now when it comes to evolution. It's a Fortune 500 company, just not recognized that way.
Right. So what did you make of like during the bubble, the NBA and WNBA players, like they got to put names on the back of their jerseys. They had the Black Lives Matter on the court. What do you think of like this era in terms of how they choose to use their voice?
I think the having that creative right is a huge benefit for not just each individual player. The one thing I learned my rookie year doing my rookie seminar is that you are a business. It's not the league. You're not a player. You're an entity.
Right.
If you do something wrong, you depreciate the value of your quote unquote entity.
Right.
Desmond Mason. If I make a mistake, my value drops. If I do all the right things and I play good, my value rises. I'm a commodity. I'm an entity. I'm a business within myself. And so I see that as being a great product for not only the communities you live in, the communities that support you. The game is global, so it's a global thing as well, but also that comes with a lot of responsibility.
Right.
And that responsibility, it revolves around knowing to utilize your voice in proper manners. And I think social media I have two kids, and my daughter is 15. She is a social media junkie, and I have had to talk to her about how to handle social media because she sees a certain entertainer post something and she just copy posts it, and now it becomes her view.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, well, do you really feel like that 100%?
Right.
Because you have to understand, when you do that, all your friends think you feel like that 100%.
Right. It's going to be attributed to you.
It is who you are.
Right.
And so I think that I love the fact that players have that kind of voice, whether it's the jerseys on the name. It's really your own discretion.
Right.
And the people that are being scrutinized for either doing it or not doing it, anybody that's doing that, I'm thinking to myself, like, you actually got a bigger problem than the next person because they chose to either speak on it or not speak on it. It's not your place to judge them on what they decide. You actually become the bad guy for judging them. And so I love the fact that the league has given that. I think Adam Silver has always done a great job. He helped make this game global. Even prior to being the commissioner, when he helped make this game global. He's done a great job at allowing that voice for players. Now it's the players' responsibility as men and even in WNBA as women to utilize that voice in a proper manner.
You mentioned Adam Silver before he was the commissioner, but early in your career, you got a call from the commissioner, David Stern, at the time. What happened with that? Like, did you feel like you were going to the principal's office?
It was definitely the principal's office. It was. Actually, my agent was, just kind of coming up, but he was a very guy that had worked for the Rockets, played in Europe, and had a great reputation as a good person. And I was his first client, so he did all his due diligence on my behalf. But I brought a different dynamic into the NBA when I was drafted, not just the fact that I busted my butt just to get to the NBA, but I also was an artist and extremely creative, and I had a different mindset. And so my agent really pushed me to push my limits. I mean, I went to the Kellogg School of Business in Chicago at Northwestern when the league offered every single player, all 400 plus of us, the opportunity to go, and only like 10 of us went. And I went, stayed extra. The Yale, they did it for Yale and other schools. And so when I went to New York for the very first time to play, my agent contacted the league offices and told them that I was coming to town and I wanted to talk to David Stern. And he was like, you know what? I've heard of this kid. We turned down his green room situation, and we wanted him to come in. And so I went to the offices in New York the day before the game. I talked to him. He ended up buying a painting of mine, a drawing of mine I did, a hyper-realist drawing of mine of Al Pacino in the movie's Carlito's Way, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I don't think
that's what Stern wanted up on the wall?
It was,
You said that's what David Stern bought the Carlito's Way?
He just liked that because it was a very detailed drawing of it was. I mean, it was really. I did a good job, in my personal opinion, at the time. And you evolve and you get better, and you go, that was just okay. But for me at the time, I thought it was great. And he wanted that Al Pacino, Carlito's Way, when he's shooting pool off the top of the two stack. I think it was Carlito's Way. I don't think it was maybe Donnie Brasco, one of those movies. But he had the two stack cue, and he put this ball on it, and he hits it off, and that was the piece that he ended up getting for his office.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my David Stern introduction.
Okay, so when did you realize that you weren't in trouble, or did you still always feel like you were in trouble?
Honestly, once I got in, not a ton of guys went to the offices in New York, and I would have to say that I felt like I was always pretty proactive in making sure that I just brand build and network. When you're around people of business, I was a sponge, and so if someone told me to do, and I was a student of the game, so if my coach tell me to do something, I'm gonna probably do it to a T until he comes to me and goes, okay, yeah, I get it, you've done that, but like you had this opportunity. And I'm like, okay, well, you're giving me flexibility. So now I go and adjust my situation. Well, that was me in the world of business as well. I utilized those opportunities. And if someone who was better in business told me to do something, I followed that pretty much to a T until I realized I had some flexibility. And so once I got into the offices and realized that I didn't have to be so stiff, I can be a little flex, then I realized that it was going to be a good conversation, and he was feeling me out to see, what I had going and who I was. And so it was, to me, again, that was my biggest interaction with Commissioner Stern. After that, I was playing. From that time, I was in and out, flying, and that distance was stretched until we had to run into each other, and then we would speak.
Gotcha. I've got a couple questions in the chat. Before we get to that, I do want to ask you, since you were the dunk contest champion, do you have a favorite dunk of yours? It could be in middle school, it could be one you did in practice, it could be in an NBA, just one you were like, oh wow, I did that one.
I'll quickly say two. One, we had at Oklahoma State, we had a thing called the Eddie Sutton Bash. My coach was Eddie Sutton, passed away, and great documentary by those guys. And so my first game, it was called the Eddie Sutton Bash, kind of like our Midnight Madness, right? It's a homecoming football game, and then afterwards at midnight they come in, and midnight
the college basketball team practice. Gotcha.
And so you do like the 3-man weave. So me being a rookie, we had the number 2 recruiting class in the country that year, in little Oklahoma, Stillwater. And so I'm a wing guy, and we do the 3-man weave, and they wanted me to get to a weave where I'm the last person because I'm dumb athletic. I take a dribble and turn around, very first one, and I dunk it backwards from the wing and shatters the backboard.
Oh, wow.
I mean, everybody on the main level just rushes the floor.
Yeah, no, shattering the backboard. I feel like that's on everybody's.
It was the first dunk, my first time being in the public of the school, and it pretty much shut down the Midnight Madness from the first 30 seconds of it for the next hour.
Yes.
So it was. I signed glass for probably 2 months. Like people would come to class with like huge.
It was a piece of glass, shard of glass,
and I would sign it. And then I would say my next one was. I won a dunk contest, and it was great. It was emotional because of the plane crash to Oklahoma State. But my favorite dunk of all time in a dunk contest was Jason Richardson and I in the 2003 dunk contest. I lose that by like a couple of points. And I tried this dunk over and over and over again. I made it a lot, but I didn't try it in warm-ups in the back. And so I came out, and I basically got the ball at the three-point line. I took 2 dribbles and I jumped up off of 2 feet. I saw Vince do it with Tracy throwing it up on Kobe East Bay. But I jumped off 2 feet and took it between my legs, and Lefty made it. And I was like, there's no way I'm not winning this. And
that was the Kenny Smith said you had the flu.
Kenny Smith screwed me. He knows
he gave you the 9, right? Everybody
Kenny
gave
Smith, you. He give me my points, I win.
Call him out. No, let him know. Let him know.
He know he a hater. I told him he a hater. I told Kenny Smith, I'm like, I know when I lost, when you came in the locker room and said, I got Jason Richardson.
Nah, yeah.
I knew I lost. I told him that. So my agent and him are good friends. And I saw him and I said, Kenny, I ate dinner with him. It's been a while back. And it was after I retired. And I go, you got me, man. You cost me one. I still got an open spot in my office right now. You cost me one.
You just gotta leave the spot open just to remind you.
I'm gonna have my son. Maybe he get one and he can give me his.
Hey, there you go.
Give me a replica. Adam, I need a replica.
Let's say we got to get you one. Do you have a dunk that you saw somebody else do that was like, oh man, I wish I thought of that. I was like, I wish I would have did that.
Helicopter. He did 7 from Cincinnati. The first
time I saw the street ball cat.
Hey, he did a 720. I was like, I felt like I could have did it. It would have took a lot of time because it's all about timing. It's not about how high you jump. It's about timing. And I said to myself, if I could have ever, there's no one ever do a 720 in the game. I mean, in the dunk contest. And I see these kids now doing dunks. And I'm like, man, these guys are creative. I mean, I'm talking about not NBA guys.
Yeah,
like social media guys.
They're doing wild stuff.
I mean, these guys are unbelievable. And so I said, if I would have ever thought about that creatively, I could have easily got myself to do a 720 because I could move that quick. Right. It's just about timing. I thought that was when I first saw it, I'm like, that's amazing.
He's like, I wish I would have did that one.
I'm like, listen, the NBA that's my family. And when it comes to dunk contests, I hope one day they put NBA against some of these street cats.
Okay. How would you change the dunk contest? You would open it up? Like what's another change you would make?
I think so. I think what happens in the NBA is a lot of people put it on money, and it's not enough money. I get it, runs a risk. A guy lands wrong, you lose a knee, or knock on wood. And I get that. I understand that risk, but you got to think about it. Arguably, Michael Jordan is the best player to ever play the game of basketball. In my opinion, he's my best. But those guys, it was good enough for them. Right. It was good enough for Dominique, Dr. J, some of these guys that did it, Clyde, and like it was good enough for some of the 50 greatest to ever play the game of basketball, 10 greatest to ever play. It's good enough for guys today. Like, you just have to commit. And I think if some of the guys in the forefront would take that step, everybody else will follow suit. I understand the risk that comes with that, but that same risk happens every single day when you play. Right. You're protected under insurance, even in a dunk contest. Yeah. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter if that's the case, but as a fan, if I'm a fan, I'm taking my kids to an NBA All-Star game and I'm going to the dunk contest, which is, I choose personally a dunk contest over the All-Star game because it's just what I did. Right. Personally. I want to see the best. I want to see Gerald Green blowing out cupcakes. Like, that's who I am. And so It's unfortunate to see it, but I think to change that, it's not money. It's kind of in the player, and it's got to be some of the bigger guys.
I was gonna say, yeah. I think it would, like you said, it might only take one, like the right guy, the right bigger guy to do it. And
everybody put that pressure. Everybody put that pressure on LeBron.
Yeah.
And I say this about LeBron. LeBron can jump out of the gym. That doesn't make him a good dunk contest dunker.
Yeah, I agree.
But he can influence guys to come and want to beat him.
Right.
Because I think there's guys that are from a dunking, the finesse standpoint that are better in the NBA. But I do think that when the league they used to offer us the opportunity. And I was like, oh my God, the league picked me.
Right.
Now it's dudes going like, I'll let you know if I can do it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the difference. But I honestly think that if we can let's just say we get 2 really good dunkers in, and if the league can add in 2 of these really good street ball dunkers,
like with YouTube
videos, change the dynamic of the competition. Now, that doesn't mean they're NBA players. It just means that they are just as athletic, and it's going to be really fun to watch.
Definitely. And you talk about some guys that would definitely be going harder for their money.
Or embarrassment.
I was gonna say, I feel like for the non-NBA guys, they're going for the money, but the NBA guys, it's the pride. It's like you let that guy beat you in the dunk. He's not even in the, you know what I'm saying? You let
and that's
YouTube
the way they look
guy.
At it. That's the way they look at it. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, when I came at it was if you could participate, it was 25,000. And if you won, you got an extra 50. And then my shoe deal had all kind of incentives and everything else. And so like that weekend was $100,000 weekend for me. Well, actually, it was $100,000 like 7 dunks.
Yeah.
For me. And so with the guys that are street ball dunkers, like if you offer them an opportunity to win $25,000, they bringing it.
Absolutely.
They're bringing it. And if you're in the NBA, you might get embarrassed if you don't bring it. So it's a pride thing.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see, these guys, the NBA guys, they got pride. Players got pride. They don't want to lose. And so you got the other guys that are trying to make that money. I think that makes great competition.
Yeah, we got to get you in charge, man. That's something I would like to see that.
I'll say this. I've always said this because I dealt with the wheel when you had to spin the wheel and dunk other dunks, and I think you get dunkers that I love the fact that you have legends.
Right.
Absolutely. I remember watching videos of me shaking Dr. J's hand and Michael Jordan's hand, and Dominique after I dunked, and I tell my kids, I'm like, I'm part of that group of guys. Yeah.
Forever.
But I think we have a new generation that are unbiased, right? We got Dwayne Wade in, he got scrutinized for his pick, so on and so forth. But there's still another group of unbiased guys. Joe Green is one of the best dunkers of all time, in my opinion. That dude is off the hook.
Yeah.
Vince Carter, obviously, arguably the greatest dunker of all time with his athleticism. I think there's a group of guys, Jason Richardson as well. I think there's a group of guys to put in that list of judges that the bias is going to slowly start to slide away because it's not about what you did. It's about, that's super sick.
Right. Like I'm only judging what's in front of me. Yeah.
New era. And I think that's kind of, I'm hoping that's the next generation of the dunk contest. Got
you. Let me check in with Bridget here. I think we got a couple of questions here. Yeah. Okay. Keith Claus checking in.
What up?
Just saying hey to D Mace.
What's up, Keith?
Who else we got here? We've got Will says, the old Desmond Mason, the red Seattle Supersonics jersey is a classic.
I got it hanging right now at the crib.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a classic.
See, Mo Man says Desmond was my dude in NBA Live 2005.
Yeah, no. Anything in the paint, if you just hit the jump button, you hit the turbo jump button, that's a dunk.
Automatic.
Automatic dunk. Doesn't matter who's in the way.
Let's see. Hawkman says, talking about being around Gary and Mike, were there any players you were starstruck by?
It was Michael Jordan the first time. The first time I played
definitely.
Nate McMillan told me to don't talk to him. He's going to talk to you and befriend you, and you look up and you have 40.
Right.
So he kept trying to ask me questions, and I would ignore him. And then I remember I fouled him one time, and he walked to the free throw line. And I saw the back of his jersey at the top of the key, and I'm like, man, I'm playing against Michael Jordan right now.
Yeah.
That was the first and the only time.
Like you're welcome. Like I'm really here moment.
This is a real deal. Yeah, this is the real deal.
Let's see what else we got. Let's see. So who are some celebrities who have purchased your paintings over the years?
George Clooney.
Okay.
Cindy Crawford. Hank Haney's Tigers golf coach. My teammate TJ Ford, Joe Smith, Howard Schultz, Starbucks, the Sanchez Navarro family, which is Corona, Pacifico, those guys.
Okay.
There's Commissioner Stern. Adam Levine as well, Mike Phelps, Dustin Johnson.
Okay, you got quite the personnel there.
Yeah, it's all good. But it's a lot of my commissions that we sit down and we kind of do these projects together. But my first big one was the group. It was a group, and it was they were part of Cindy Crawford, Randy Gerber, her husband, George Clooney, and a guy named Mike Melman. They had founded a company called Casamigos, and they all ended up getting a piece of mine.
Got you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything? What else we got, Bridget? Got one from Nick here. Says, who is your favorite non-superstar teammate?
Mo Williams.
Okay. Why Mo?
I would say Michael Redd, but he won a gold medal. So Mike is my
he's disqualified.
But Mo Williams, he was a rookie in Milwaukee when he came. Well, he was a second-year guy, I'm sorry, in Milwaukee when he came from that trade from Utah. And I mentored Mo, and we got real close. I mean, we're still close today. We still talk all the time. I'll probably put second in line is Joe Smith from Maryland. Joe and I would hang out. Joe was a rapper. He loved to rap. And we go to New York and he would go to the studio. He knew people that would get in the studio with Jay-Z. And then we would go to, play in New Orleans and we'd be in the studio with Wayne. And so Joe and I would literally get done with a game, sit next to each other. We would get headphones before Bluetooth and headphone to headphone and listen to a beat that his buddy put together. And we would write songs and we started recording CDs.
Okay.
And so I started from Joe got me. I love to write music, but I never did it. But Joe got me writing music, and from that point, I still to this day I just constantly write.
So who's a better rapper, you or Joe?
Today. Oh, I'm better.
You got okay. Back in the day, he had you though.
Yeah, because Joe was into it at the time. And I hadn't heard anything from Joe lately, but I'm just gonna assume when I listen to my work now as opposed to then. Like I'm up there.
Right.
Damian Lillard is the best NBA rapper of all time.
Of all time? Wow. Okay.
Who else gonna beat him? I guess Shaq.
I was gonna say. I mean, Shaq got to be up there.
Lyrically, Damian Lillard is unbelievable.
I know Bagley is another one. Marvin Bagley's pretty good.
He better come on with it, man.
Listen, the only rereason I found out about Bagley was when Dame went at him, and I was like, "Hey, Bagley's not bad, but Dame is better."
Agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I listen to those guys. And I'm like, I remember Shaq tried to come at Dame, and that was over. Yeah, and then I saw the Bagley situation, and Dame is. I mean, he's doing it for real. Like he's playing it like he's doing music like he's doing sports.
Right.
And I like that about him. That dude is fearless, man. I love it.
Another from JTR. JTR says, who are some artists you think are on the rise?
Artists on the rise now. They've been on the rise, but I'm gonna go Alec Monopoly.
Okay.
Alec is huge on a global scale. I'm a big fan of a guy. He's very, very big in the world of art, but it's a guy named Retina. He's out of LA. But Retina is, I don't need to look him up if you don't know who he is. Dude is unbelievable. Other artists, everybody knows who Mr. Brainwash is. He did the Rick Ross cover. another artist that's not just in the world of art, but in the world of music as well, that's a very good visual artist, is Chris Brown.
Okay.
I did not think he could paint the way he paints. I thought
Really?
it was some other stuff going on. I thought it was somebody doing it, and it was really. But I watched. I mean, the guy can go. He's a muralist, and it was pretty shocking to see that he is actually that good from a painting standpoint. So
really?
Those are, and then this is my brother, man. I have to say, out of Philly, King Saladin is what he's doing now with Bear Season, and he's done stuff for all kind of celebrities. That guy is unbelievable.
Okay. So actually, I take that back. We do have one more. We're getting a song or two from all our legends. Just what are you listening to now? It can be old school, new school. We're just trying to put something together, get a song or two from everybody. So what's in Desmond Mason's his headphones?
A song I just listened to was my grandmother. I got a gift from a friend, and it was actually a Bluetooth old recorder, but it was Bluetooth. And I grew up listening to his music, and so Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King.
Oh,
if you've never heard it, man, it's just one of those soulful blues
classics.
songs.
Yeah.
That's a classic. And then I'm gonna ramp it up to the day. And man, if you put anything right now for me, I'm a Lil Baby fan.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, man. He got that.
He's good. Yeah, he's really good.
It's raw. It's South. I'm a South kid. It's South, but he's really putting thought into it, and I like the fact that he did his thing around the Black Lives Matter movement. That piece was incredible, and so my kids have listened to it, and I don't let my kids listen to curse words, so we got all kinds of edited versions of it. But I love the fact I took my daughter to his concert when she was 13. He didn't win an award. This has been a big thing now. He didn't win a BET award. But I say this, that kid is as talented as they get in music. You may not like his voice or Southern music in general, but he puts in the work for real.
Definitely. So we got BB King and Lil Baby. I love getting two different ends of the spectrum. When
I listen to Andrea Bocelli.
Okay.
I listen to Garth Brooks and George Strait is a good friend, and so bro, I listen to everything from Bocelli, everything in between until I get to Lil Baby.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Desmond Mason, that'll do it for this Legends Live. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
No, man, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, man. The NBA has been, it's been so good to me in my life and my career. Changed the lineage and the progression of not just my own life, but the future for my family. It's allowed me so many doors, and so I'm always appreciative to be part of anything you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're thankful for you, and we'll talk to you soon, Desmond.
No doubt, man. Peace.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for today. As always, we've got new episodes live every Thursday around 5 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us on the NBA Alumni Twitter, the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page. I'd like to remind all our viewers you can watch any replays of episodes at legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. You can catch the audio replay to any of our conversations on Apple Podcast or Spotify by searching for Legends Studio. That'll do it for this week. We will catch you next Thursday.